So, and even if some people, even if they think about it, I'm sure you've thought about fulfilling your divine purpose.
Yeah, no, definitely. This afternoon, I even, with that in mind, I went back onto my website and I just listened to some of my own videos that I'd created, and because obviously Logos has been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And I did some videos probably about since I've been in Australia. So I just listened to them, and I really enjoyed listening to them. Okay, and and interestingly enough, I even mentioned you in the video, just because we had a chat, and so we were chatting about something similar, and so it was interesting that how things not necessarily are progressing, but just our consciousness, is what it was then is now. I don't know if it's any different, but we're talking the same sort of things, using the same sort of language. And that was interesting. What were your thoughts around it, reading it?
Oh, no, just that it had kind of been exercising in my mind, that sort of subject matter around, the divine purpose, even in the sense of, like even if we think that our life is not going how we would like it to go, but what that might mean in terms of, are we resisting or are we clinging to things?
Right.
And those sorts of elements, so that even if I have a bout of sickness, for example, when I sort of desire health, well, like your circumstances in some ways, does that, how do you interpret that, And I suppose there's always the risk or the temptation to say, oh, well, if I'm not feeling well, then maybe I'm not fulfilling God's purpose, but it could in fact be the opposite.
Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about my health. What is today? On Monday morning, I went to get the results of my blood tests, and my poo test and my urine tests. Okay. Quite a comprehensive test, overall health. Okay. And it's and everything was 100%. Okay. Everything was in the normal. Even my blood sugar levels over the AIC, over a 3-month period, which they do these days. They can find what your blood has been over the last 3 months. Okay, just from one blood test. So everything, my cholesterol, my liver, everything is working perfectly. Okay. So I ask myself now, is it because of my efforts? Okay. Or is it because of my attempted connection with my soul and with the divinity? Okay. And that was my thoughts in the last couple of days, since Monday, was, I'm very, very grateful for being healthy. Okay. but whose was it? Is it? Do I pat myself on the back and say, well, my very strict regime of eating and avoiding anything, well, not avoiding, but just eating strictly according to all categories of food, or is it that I've just been progressively stayed in communication with the divinity?
Or both, or both.
Well, that's the cop-out, you see. That's the cop-out.
Well, I don't know that it is. I mean, because...
But which one is it, you see?
Well, my sense is you've been incredibly disciplined in terms of what you put into your body.
Yeah.
But also disciplined about, remaining in fellowship too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there isn't an answer, really. Okay. Because if I'd eaten junk food and kept my divinity going, would I have been healthy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, one of the themes, I can't remember whether we talked about it last week or not, the whole idea of order out of chaos. So if you make decisions which lead to chaos in your life, then there's normally some consequence as a result of that.
I would agree with that, because inevitably, if you're eating junk food, you're pleasing your taste buds. And it's selfish, I guess.
Well, it's a self-gratification, isn't it? Really,
that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, I think. I mean, the doctor. It's just funny. I'm going to digress for a minute. He was late for my appointment. Okay, I was the first appointment on Monday morning, and so he apologized. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm late." I said to him, "That's fine, because you from Africa, And he laughed. Okay, we've got a reputation of never ever being on time. Okay, it's just part of Africa, and he thought that was funny. Anyway, it's just a digression. Yeah, yeah. He was, he was like surprised when he saw all those results, because he saw the ones last year, and they weren't all okay. So he was saying, and I just smiled, because Sue, I always ask Sue to come and sit in with me when I go to a quack, because she remembers a lot of the detail that I just sort of forget about, particularly if it's good detail,
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I going to say now? Oh yeah, he said, the medication is working, eh? Now, what he didn't know, and I didn't tell him, was that I had weaned myself off all the medication long before the blood tests.
Yeah.
Okay. I was working online with a doctor in South Africa, and so with her in tow and giving me the, for example, I was taking the blood thinners. And if you have to just Google the blood thinners, it's got a lot of side effects. Okay, and you shouldn't stay on it for too long if you're on the medication. Okay, they wanted to keep me on sort of indefinitely. Okay, and so anyway, she weaned me off, and she gave me an alternative, which is a combination which I have every morning of fresh garlic, tahini, a little bit of olive oil, and sauerkraut. Okay, and so that's what I have. I really enjoy it now. And in the beginning, You know, I'd never eaten sauerkraut really. And now I even make my own sauerkraut. And I do enjoy it. But that combination automatically keeps your blood at a healthy consistency. Okay. Anyway, I didn't tell him that because he's not interested. Okay. He was just pleased with himself that, you know, he had prescribed all these things and they were all working. And the most interesting was, of course, the blood sugar, because it's weird, Don. You know, there's a group that I sometimes join in. They every week they get together, a diabetes group, okay, in America. They do it on Zoom, and they used to work through Get Set Up. That's how I first found them, and then Get Set Up wouldn't allow them to do it every week, so they've gone on their own now. And one of their common factors is they're all diabetic, obviously, and they say you can never ever cure diabetes too. You can't. Okay, you've just take your medicine, and you've got to be careful what you eat, and you've got to monitor yourself. They have these, all of them have these things on the arm permanently. So you eat something, you can look and monitor and see what you eat and so on. Okay. I thought of going there. I mean, I pondered it for a week or two, and then decided that's like, it's an interesting thing when we're talking spiritually. That's an acceptance that you can't get healed. Okay. You know, and it's like I told you once before in our conversations, my oldest daughter in the Netherlands, she pulled me up when I said I am diabetic. She said, don't identify yourself, okay? Say your blood sugar is high at the moment. But don't give yourself a label that your body then tries to maintain that. And so they all have the labels. They do the label as well. And so, yeah, anyway, that was my visit to the doctor. And so I'm very, very pleased about that. And then on the same day, which was the 23rd of October, unexpectedly, Don, and totally unexpectedly, okay, surprisingly, because it was only the end of the week before last week, that we had put in our application for a new visa. And we had on the Friday, we had got the usual computer notification, you know, that it's been lodged, and we can't do anything until they come back. On Monday, it came back.
Wow. They
approved our application. Sue and I are convinced they didn't even read it, but I know they do. And that they approved me to piggyback on Sue's 408 visa.
Well, that's a huge thing for you. Yeah.
It's a huge thing because I've now got a 408 visa. Okay? And I certainly don't qualify. I qualify because Sue's got it. And I went as a de facto with Sue. And so that was amazing as well. Okay.
Well, that's great news, because that gives you a whole lot more certainty now, doesn't it?
No, until April. Okay. But Australia is doing away with the 408 visa next year.
Yeah. Okay.
We just happened to get in before they have now cut it off. Okay. So we go through until April, and then there is no more 408 visa. And anyway, they also, strangely enough, talking about the department in Australia, they also asked me to pay tax. Now, I wasn't allowed to work. I've never earned anything. Okay. But they said, now, okay, you're in Australia. To apply for this visa or renewal of your visa, you've got to pay a tax, $700.
Well, based on earnings?
Based on nothing.
Based on nothing. Okay.
I don't earn anything. Okay. And anything I do earn doesn't come into Australia at all.
It's weird, isn't it?
Very weird. Very weird. Okay. And anyway, we forgot that weirdness when we suddenly the next day got approved. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was it. That was it.
Well, that's great news. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay, coming back to the other thing I sent you, that that was Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you listened to it.
No, I haven't yet. No.
Okay. Well, I thought, because of the current circumstances with Hamas and Israel and what's going on there, he talks from a spiritual perspective. Okay, he talks about it. Okay, and I don't have to give you the background of Bruce Lipton. I think you know he's a scientist. Okay, he was one of the founding. Anyway, yeah, he's retired now, and yeah, my goodness me, I must. Anyway, rather ask me questions, I think. Otherwise, I'm going to go off at a tangent. And
no, you're good. You're good.
I don't want to tell you about Bruce Lipton. You listen to his thing, and maybe we talk about it next week.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about half an hour.
Okay, so he just talks about the conflict there.
No, he doesn't. Not just. No,
okay.
Not at all. No, he talks about humanity. Okay, that's the solution for all the wars on the planet.
Yeah,
is humanity, and that's how, when one person looks at another person and they embrace one another, that's humanity. That's human. Okay, and that's the solution. It's not. He says nobody wins. Two people fight a war. Okay, and all that happens with the winner is that he gains the power over the other one. So he says, "Where's humanity?" Okay.
It's an interesting idea because it's one that's sort of been exercised in my mind for a while as well, and in the sense that if you try and view things like from the divine perspective, because you always hear about one side says, "Oh, God is with us," and the other side says, "No, God is with me," and blah blah blah. But if you look at it from the divine perspective, the problem is the human condition.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So, and that's really quite confronting. As the realization of what that means is. So to genuinely have a view that, okay, I accept that divine reality. What am I going to do about it? That's a big step.
Yeah, but when you're talking, as Bruce Lipton does there, you're talking about governments, you're talking about countries, okay? And he said, how difficult can it be for the Israelites and the Palestinians to come together when they have a common father of religion, which is Abraham? They both came from Abraham. Okay. So it really, he said, it's just the humanity, the human aspect that religion had kept us apart. Okay. Yeah.
No, certainly, certainly thought-provoking. That's for sure.
Yeah. I urge you to listen to it. It just, you know, in his monthly newsletters, he just talks casually about something that is usually relevant because, you know, of my spiritual inclination. Okay. But he's not spiritual as in you know, he brings science and spirituality together, like having been a scientist. Okay. So he just went one step further after he retired. He took his science further. And it brought him, with that searching, it brought him to spirituality or divinity. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you see these big conflicts, you know, you often hear people, especially the doomsdayers, sort of say, "Oh, you know, this is it. You know, this is the apocalypse," meaning, you know, the end days is about to arrive. And in one sense, they're totally wrong, but in another sense, they're right. In like, for example, in the sense that they're right is that what happens at the other side of this probably means that it'll be something completely different from what was there before it, you know, depending on how long the conflict goes and how intense it is and how many people get involved in it and that sort of thing. But to say that it's the end days in terms of the end of humanity, then probably not so likely.
Yeah. But, you know, the question I often ask myself when I think about this subject is, does humanity have to be not destroyed, but do they have to have such a bad war that they're back to the dark ages, walking around, you know, in, you know, a loincloth and eating whatever they can find, and then in order to then bring them together and realize that they need each other.
Do you reckon humanity could survive that?
Yeah, I don't know what. I think from, you know, what Moya is saying is that there are many people now that have incarnated, are incarnating, and they mostly young people, because it's like from the turn of the century. Okay, and I suppose they must be about 20 now, some of them, and roughly then. And he said they are deeply committed to humanity and the kindness and everything else that comes together with it. And so, you know, maybe they'll be taking up key posts in the future in governments and things like that. And maybe some of them will be corrupted, but from the way that Moya was talking, I think these people have been chosen, divinely chosen, and experienced from maybe many incarnations. I don't know, that's my speculation. And maybe then the governments can turn around, and if these people are heading up the governments, then, you know, they'll be holding out hands, because already there are some governments that are holding out hands, that you know, refuse to take sides. Okay. And you know, that's the first step. Okay. Don't morally or otherwise, take sides or support. And America is one of the worst at the moment. It really is taking sides.
Yeah.
And so is Australia. So we don't have, or they don't have the leadership I'm hoping we're talking about. But anyway, so that's what when I look at the news and so on, I'm looking for people or looking for countries or leaders that are saying, this is absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
But the hatred that Hamas has for the Israelites is unbelievably strong.
Yes, incredibly intense, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, it just takes a new leader of Hamas, and who knows? Sure, the Palestinians could be united in an amazing way.
And I don't know about you, but my sense of it is, putting aside rights and wrongs, my sense of it is that the intensity of that feeling is on both sides, that both sides believe that the only solution is that the other side be obliterated.
Yes, I agree. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's why I was thinking and saying a moment ago was, does Israel have to annihilate the Palestinians or vice versa? Because maybe the Israelites will be annihilated because of Syria and the other countries, close by. And
I'm not even sure how you would do that, really. But anyway.
Well, again, you do it to an extent until the Israelites get a new leader.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Yeah.
The trouble is that in that region is the memories span thousands of years. It's almost like a genetic memory, isn't it?
Bruce Lipton talks about that. Okay, he says the belief has been there, and the children now, even primary school children, preschool, are pretending to play war, and the Israelites are the opposition or the Palestinians are the opposition.
Yeah.
And even showed a picture and having fun with this enemy that they had been brainwashed to accept.
Yeah, it's difficult when it sort of gets inculcated to the psyche of the children, isn't it?
Yeah. That's where my thoughts stem from. Do we have to be totally annihilated and scattered across the planet? Okay, and will the climate play a part as well? And will the rising of the sea play a part?
I think in some ways, though, doesn't it? I mean, and this is a real oversimplification, I guess, but but until you start to look forward together, then it's hard to get past the past, isn't it? If the past is your reference point, it's pretty hard to move forward, isn't it?
You can see why Elon Musk wants to get civilization or humanity to Mars.
Yeah, and he's probably be successful. Who knows? Yeah, that's sort of interesting, isn't it? That in terms of the future of humanity, it may well, not involve planet Earth. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hard for us in some ways to imagine, but in other ways not, I guess. So.
Yeah, an interesting point that I remember Moya bringing up once And that was, the first root race before the Adamic root race were the giants. And they became highly sophisticated. They did not believe in God. They didn't have any religion. And when saviors actually came down, they tried to kill them. Okay. They just weren't interested in that. Anyway, their technology got them into spacecraft, and they disappeared off the planet as a species. And they roam in the universe, or universes somewhere. Okay. But to themselves, they were very human. They weren't.
Is that the what do they call them? The Nephilim and the Seraphim or something? Is that no? Or?
No. I just know them as the giant root race before Adam and Eve.
Okay, so before Adam and Eve. Okay.
Yeah.
So non-human as such.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they were human, okay? They were giants, and some of them stuck around, and the Bible talks about David with his slingshot killing a giant, okay?
Yeah, Goliath there.
And you see lots of fossils getting dug up with giants, particularly in Africa. You see quite a lot. But they really disappeared totally, as had each root race run its time,
Yeah.
And and we still got one more root race to go.
Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we know what that race looks like or not yet?
Yeah, we do. First of all, they've got a tan-colored skin. Okay. And I think you can see that across the world, okay, at the moment, okay. They have the potential of being the type of people that you and I are just talking about now, okay, with a humanity, okay,
well, I suppose we've all had that potential, haven't we?
Yeah, I agree. Well, not all the root races, okay, they've actually all, anyway, it's an interesting topic to think about and talk about, I think, is what the tans, we in Logos call them, we refer to them as the tan root race. But it's the last root race. It's this, the seventh root race, and seventh and final. I think it's seventh. Yeah, it must be, because we're in the sixth root race now. Yeah. And each root race, if and maybe we can set time aside to talk about it, but each root race has either been on the negative side or on the positive side, if you like. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this one's going to be, the final one's going to be on the positive side.
On the positive side, meaning stronger connection to the divine.
Yeah. That's a simplistic way, but yes, I think that's. So we're in a negative one now. Okay, a negative root race.
I hope so.
And previous to us, like the Atlanteans and so on, that was a positive.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you sort of think about, the technological advances and so on, apparently of some of those, very early inhabitants, some of them had quite remarkable technologies, didn't they?
Yeah.
An incredible knowledge of the universe. So.
Yeah. Yeah, each root race had their own sort of speciality or leaning, okay? And some of the negative root races, with like witchcraft and tremendous power in that type of science.
Yeah, just a different sort of technology, I guess, isn't it, in some ways? But,
yes, it is. Yes, it is, definitely. Yeah.
So if you bring that back to like the here and now, it almost cycles back to the earlier part of our conversation tonight in terms of, what is it that we focus on, to fulfill, our sense of what our divine purpose is. That's a big question, isn't it?
Yes, and it's a question you and I often bring up. But I think we've come to an answer about that. From my perspective, we've incarnated and we're here now with for whatever circumstances brought us to the here and now in our lives, but we need to now learn from that, as we spoke earlier about. But at the same time, we can't sit back and just pray to God.
No, there's an action required, for sure.
Yeah, and it's like at the beginning of this conversation of talking about my health. You see, would I have got healthy if I didn't diligently apply myself to understanding what my physical body needs, which I regard as sort of a holy place or a divine place for the soul to travel in.
I think that's a really important point too, in the sense that, seeking health is quite a different thing than seeking a cure.
Oh, I agree. Tell me more. What are you thinking?
No, well, it just sort of came to mind that, like the people who wear the label, I think is how you describe them, who have their monitors on and all that sort of stuff around diabetes.
Yeah.
Are they seeking health or are they seeking a cure? I think they're probably seeking a cure.
Yeah. They're looking they're not looking at the bigger picture. Okay.
They're looking at diabetes and saying, how can I make this?
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, it's a lot of analogy. They're looking over the other side of the Gaza Strip and saying, how can I make that horrible thing over there go away?
Yeah. And if you take lots of medication, those gadgets will show that things are okay. Won't show the side effects and what's happening and why you die of something else, perhaps.
Well, I mean, just by virtue of the nature of the technology, it can only tell you, very narrow parameters.
Yeah, Correct.
And if the underlying assumption is that if you get those very narrow parameters right, or into normal, so-called normal range, then everything's okay. Well, as you've said, clearly it's not.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Let's celebrate by going out and having a sweet, sugary bun and steak dinner.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. From time to time, I still have my sweet sugary bun. Okay. I don't deny myself. Okay. You know, when we got the news that now whenever we get good news, Sue and I, you know, we celebrate.
Yeah. No.
Okay. And
I admire that about both of you. Like even with the birthday celebrations, how you celebrate the whole week.
yes, that's right. I started already. This morning was the start of that. Yeah. But anyway, we went out and bought ourselves a Chelsea bun, okay? And we came home and we had a cuppa and the Chelsea bun, and we celebrated, okay? The visa and the blood test results, so that came through on the same day. So yeah, we look for reasons to celebrate, and
it's wonderful.
Yeah, and yeah, my stomach is able to handle anything now.
So when you reflect back on those dark days where it all seemed helpless, where you're sort of looking down the barrel of having to go back to South Africa and not really knowing what the future was going to hold and all of those sorts of scenarios, I mean,
yeah,
what brought you through?
Divinity.
Okay.
You know, my lesson hasn't been learned yet, and it sounds like it's got to be learned here. Okay, and we certainly stumbled across an amazing visa consultant here in Perth who really knows his business. Okay, and so I think that all sort of fits together, all of it. And you're on a path, and I think that you know, you can bring definitely illness into your life. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know.
Well, just by being stressed.
Yeah, being stressed definitely, but also selfishly pleasing oneself with foods and things like that, and without the knowledge of what does your body need. Okay, what is good food? Okay. So anyway, I'm not going to go there now.
Well, the proof is in the pudding for you, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, one of my friends said, you know, when we told them, he said, you know, what's that English phrase now? I forget what she used. You walk your talk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty powerful statement, though, isn't it? You know, like if you you act on your understanding and belief, that's a very different thing with, I guess, what potentially could be just inauthenticity, is you say one thing but do another, you know. So
yeah.
Which is what the Pharisees were doing to Christ, you know.
Right.
Preaching morality to the extent that they even said to Christ that you're not allowed to heal someone on the Sabbath. But why? well, that's work. If you know how to do that.
You're obviously covering something like that in your studies.
Oh, well, no, it's just something that cropped up, like that came to mind when you're saying about, walking your talk.
Yeah. But do any of the religions walk the talk? Okay.
Well, yeah, whether it's the religions, I like to sort of think comes down to the individual level, doesn't it? I mean, that's where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. So
yeah.
Because some people could say to you, well, what's your religion? Well, what on earth does that mean?
Yeah.
My religion is I have strictly eat healthy, except when I don't. Well, that might be a good spot to pull up, maybe, to land the plane, so to speak. So.
Yeah. I think so. It
was an interesting discussion. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, myself.
So I'll have a look at that video too, and maybe we can, if we remember, pick that up next week.
Yeah. Okay. I really think you would enjoy just Bruce Lipton's perspective. Yeah. Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, you take care.
Yeah, you too.
And I'm so pleased with your good news. That's really, really.
Yeah, that's great.
So pleased to hear it. So
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay then.
Cheers, man. Bye.
So if South Africa learns how to play cricket and play rugby, you'll be on a winner. So.
Yeah. I wonder what's going to happen on Sunday. Yeah.
Take care. See you now. Bye.
Bye.